Alright, so here's your AP Calculus quiz review. Number 1, find the derivative of e raised to 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. That is simply, of course, you're just going to basically rewrite this. So f prime of x is going to be e to the 3x squared minus 4x plus 6. Then, of course, you're going to multiply that by the derivative of the exponent. So that's going to be times 6x squared minus 4. So there's your derivative. Alright, number 2. g of x equals 7 raised to the sine of x. Alright, so you know, basically just going to rewrite this. 7 times raised to the sine of x. Now you're going to multiply by the derivative of the exponent. The derivative of sine x is cosine x. And you're going to multiply that by the natural log of the base. So for number 2, it's 7 raised to sine of x times cosine x times the natural log of 7. Right? Because remember, when you have a number raised to an exponent, it's simply the number raised to the exponent times the derivative of the exponent times the natural log of the base. Alright? Now, number 3, h of x. You have the natural log of x squared minus 4x. Remember, all this is, if you look at this as the guts, it's simply 1 over those guts times the derivative of the guts, which in this case is 2x minus 4. So you could also write this as 2x minus 4 over x squared minus 4x. And that's it for the first 3, guys. Now let's look at number 4. Number 4, find the antiderivative of e raised to the 8x. Well, if you remember, if you remember from over here, when you take the derivative, you just rewrite it and multiply by the derivative of the exponent. Well, here we don't have the derivative of the exponent. So what is the derivative of 8x? Well, it's 8. So we have to put an 8 here in front. And then since we added an 8 here, we've got to multiply by 1 over 8, so it cancels it out. We don't actually change the value. So now your antiderivative of 1/8 integral 8 e to the 8x is simply 1 over 8 times e to the 8x. Alright, simply 1 over 8 and I forgot, don't you forget tomorrow, plus c. Okay, that's it for the first 4. Pretty simple. Key thing is here is remember, you have to have the derivative of whatever this is as well. So since this is e to the 8x, we don't have the derivative of that in here, so we need to put the derivative in and then multiply by 1 over that derivative in order to take the antiderivative. Alright? Now let's look at number 5. I'm going to erase this so I have more room to write. Number 5. Alright, so first thing we want to do is we want to identify u. Well, u would be this, 2 minus x cubed. Now, du is going to be negative 3x squared dx. So here we don't have the 3 in the problem. So we're going to need to put the 3 in. Actually, it's a negative 3. And then we're going to have to multiply by negative 1/3 out here. Alright? So now, all of this gets replaced with the integral. Negative 1/3 times the integral of u to the 1/2 du. Alright? U to the 1/2 du. So now, simply take the integral of that, which is going to be negative 1/3 times u to the 3/2. Okay, so negative 1/3 times 2/3 u to the 3/2 plus c. Now just simply substitute back in. So we're going to get negative 2 times 2 minus x cubed over 3 times 3 is 9 plus c. Alright, pretty much it. Not bad. Just remember, you need to find u in your problem. So u here would be the square root. Well, it would just be the 2 minus x cubed, so it's what's under the square root. Because remember, when you take the derivative of x cubed, you're going to get some kind of x squared. Okay, but if you take the derivative of x squared, you're not going to get an x cubed. So that's another way to look is, do I have the derivative of this somewhere? Well, I have most of it. I have the x squared. So that's how you know that's u. We had to put in the -3, so we had to put in the -1/3 here. So it became -1/3 the integral of u to the 1/2 du. Take the antiderivative of that, that becomes 2/3 u to the 3/2 times -1/3 plus c. And then substitute back in for u, and I also combined the fraction into one fraction. Alright, so that's it for number 5. Now let's look at number 6. Number 6, you have to use substitution. Not only do you have to use substitution, you got to find your new limits of integration and solve from there. So number 6 was from 1 to 3 x 1 plus 3x squared cubed dx. Alright, so we're going to find u and we're going to find du. Well, if you look, we have an x squared here and a single x here. Well, when you take the derivative of x squared, you're going to get a single x. So we know this is u, 1 plus 3x squared. Now I'll take the derivative of that, that's 6x dx. Well, we don't have a 6 in here, so we're going to add a 6. So we're going to put a 1 over 6 out front. Okay? Now we can proceed with doing the substitution. So this equals the integral from 1 to 3, 1 over 6 of u cubed du. But now don't forget, we need to change the limits of integration. Alright, we need to change the limits of integration. So plug a 1 into here, and you get 1 plus 3 times 1 squared, which is 4. So this 1 becomes a 4. And when you plug the 3 in, 3 squared is 9, times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. So this 3 becomes a 28. Alright, so now we're doing 1/6 times the integral from 4 to 28 of u cubed du. So now you just take the antiderivative. It's going to be 1/6 times u to the 4th over 4, evaluated from 4 to 28. So now you just simply do your integration, do your substitution. Put in the 28, so it's going to be 28 to the 4th over 4 minus 4 to the 4th over 4. And I know you can do that simple. I know you can do this simple math. If you can do this, you can do that. Alright? So that's pretty much it for your calculus review. The important thing to remember is you got to find u, you got to find your du. If you need to add something in to the integral, make sure you put 1 over whatever you had to add in outside the integral. Alright? And when you get to here, remember, since now we're doing it all in terms of u instead of the x's, you have to change your limits of integration. How do you do that? You take the bottom limit, plug it into what u equals, whatever it equals, that's your lower limit. Plug the top limit in to u, whatever that equals, that's your top limit. Then you have your new limits of integration. Just go through and take the antiderivative and evaluate at the 2 points. So, this has been your AP Calc quiz review. Watch as many times as you need to. Make sure when you come tomorrow you're ready to take the exam. See you tomorrow.